You're in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, singing to me. You're in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, baby, in my headphones, making me bleed. You're in my
We're back. It's been a long 2025 before we've got ourselves to this point, but 2026 has now hit the horizon, and a brand new season means brand new teams looking to try and find themselves with supremacy to say they are the ultimate masters of this game. We start tonight with the home of motor racing, the home of Formula Racing, but with a twist. We're not going to be going the regular way. We're going to be doing it backwards. And that's where we're going to have great, amazing racing to start here from Silverstone. Welcome to Velocity Esports Racing and coverage of today's action. My name's Jake Sperry. James Otter, once again, back with me for today's action. And James, this is all about statement making. The first round of the season, you cannot win the title here. But my goodness, have we seen many teams try.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome aboard and welcome to a brand new year as well, 2026, showing that already it's going to be a little bit of a controversial one out there as well, because, of course, many drivers, many teams, of course, changing hands over this period as well. We saw drivers leaving their teams to join another, only to rejoin their old team again. So that could make for a little bit of more of a spicy affair between the drivers here at the Ultimate Masters this year. And no doubt as well, taking into account a reverse circuit, as you say, Jake, that should also make up a bit more of a spicy affair.
It absolutely will. Let's take a look at our calendar and see where we're going over the course of the 10 rounds of this championship. So we've had the qualifying event over in Melbourne. We start tonight with a reverse at Silverstone, but they are in for a very quick 5 races in 5 weeks with Barcelona, Spielberg, Spa, and Imola to bring up halfway. And then it is a much tougher second half of the season, in my view, when you go to Shanghai, Suzuka, Montreal, of course, the Circuit of the Americas, and Lusail to end the championship. This is a tough championship, and I think the first half is there for the taking. The second half, James, is for surviving.
Yes, it's quite that, isn't it? I think the first one is the precedent setter. You've got to make sure that you bag those early points in, because, of course, you want to damage limitate when you start getting to the more difficult circuits. Japan, not really known for its overtaking. It's all about raw pace. Texas, you've, of course, got to take into account the raw nature of the strategy. Of course, the undercut, incredibly powerful. So if you want to try and damage limitate, this first part of this calendar is going to be fairly critical if you want to try and win the biggest prize of all.
Yep, and those prizes are going to be huge as they set themselves out. They've all paid their team entry of €30. And again, 9th place will give you €30. You're down 30 if you cannot find yourself off the bottom step. But €500 for a win today in the Velocity Esports Racing Ultimate Masters if you win it overall, in collaboration with Hyundai, Intercomp, Level Academy, Brand Garage, Monster Energy, and The Specialist. $350 for second, $250 for third, 50 increment down to 6th place where you get 130 increment then for 7th at 70 euros, and then it is a 50 euro bonus if you finish 8th in the championship. And these teams rely on events like these. This is what sets the budget for the next year. This is what says to them as well here, James, that look, these are the great drivers we can bring in, because we can say, look, we can give you 100 euro, 200 euro for great results out there over the course of your other races and championships.
And it's also very important as well to consider that this game cycle is going to be going on an extra year because, of course, F1 26 will not be happening. So they've really got to try and set that early precedent within this game cycle. They are the team to be with. And the way you do that one is not just by winning those championships, but having the money to back it. And that is why we're going to be seeing, no doubt, all of these teams that are going to be coming up in their car allocations, of course, trying to fight out to try and get the top prize as much as they can.
So, your reigning champions, ET8, ET8, they are in the Red Bulls for making their racing action. And we got 5 teams new, 5 teams returning, and 1 with a merger as well. Venturi Esports, rebranded from NLR, never last. They find themselves in the Racing Bulls, looking to get themselves sorted. You got Team TF10, they're down in the Williams, and then, of course, Future Racing Team, who were 9th last time we were running this championship. They are running in the Haas for this action. The big key, though, is the team that was 4th and 5th last time we were running this, James. That is now Shizou Cedars Igniters, the Season 2 champions. The merger between them, they'll be looking to try and run very strongly out there in the Alpines.
Yeah, the Shizou Cedar Igniters have been the team to basically be at throughout this particular game cycle. They've basically been winning absolutely everything, but the midfielders have started to close up the gap a little bit. ET8 just trying to find their footing. In other championships, they tend to do really well, but we'll have to see if the knock-on effect of a previous championship might have actually hindered their performance. The team to keep an eye out on, though, are the ones in the Haas, FRT. They are starting to make some serious inroads now, and they could be the ones to challenge for the top.
And of course, there's those 5 new teams, AMR Esports in the Ferrari. You've got RSC Esports. They'll be running in the Mercedes. My favorite named team of them all, the Angry Shark Racing Team. They'll be jumping into the McLarens as they'll be hoping to jump up. All Elite Racing Team in the Kick Saubers. And a team I know very well from their iRacing exploits. They find themselves top split in that field quite a bit. Tatum Restec. They'll be running in the Aston Martins, trying to bolster their division here on the F1 side to get themselves sorted. So, with the teams allotted in terms of what cars they'll be running, shall we talk some drivers? Shall we talk about who's going to be in what car, as we got 6 different people who can jump in at any given point during the season? ET8, no shocks, put Matteo 46 into play with Ryderdal alongside for company. And I look around these names, I think there are some pretty solid drivers out there who can make some progress. I will keep my eye on Tech. Tech is pretty quick.
Yeah, he is incredibly quick out there as well. SCI fielding a very strong lineup as well here tonight, obviously trying to counteract some recent news we'll actually give you in just a second. I'm also keeping a very firm eye out on Kevin Zunberg as well, a man that was actually poached from what is now actually a recently demised EVR, Evolution Racing, now at FRT alongside Justin. They're looking to set an early precedent. He is a very consistent driver. He might not be towards the front, Kevin Zunberg, but if you want him racing, you want him in the mix, you want him to really battle out and play the mind games, FRT could be perhaps the villains of this particular tournament.
They very much could be, and we'll only have to see with the way they go about things and race for it. You got the likes there for Venturi. They've got Fana Spinoda and also Dylan Hergeland, who will be in there trying to make that progress. And I'm keeping an eye on TF10. I think they've got a little something about them. Astala and Tiago 7 will be looking to make their pushes as things go. Now, it's not often here, James, we need to talk about the championship standings at round 1 of the championship. So this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting, because you see 9 teams on 0. Shizou Cedars Igniters, they're on -10, and that's for a late roster submission.
Yes, as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, this hurts, to be honest with you, because it does bring some pretty bad memories. Shazoo Cedar Igniters starting on -10, breaking the rules initially straight out of the blocks. That will hurt a little bit for a team of their caliber, because usually they're all over it, aren't they? They're all in the admins. They've got everything sorted. All they need is just to drive and win. So very uncharacteristic management there from SCI. So they starting now down at the back of the field in P10 are the I think team that ended up seeded P4 in the end in the qualifying. But that will make it will be smiling ear to ear, will the ET8 team, of course, because they are the closest rivals potentially across the esports sphere. And with them on -10 already a deficit, they are going to be very happy indeed going into this round 1 at Silverstone Reverse.
They absolutely will be, and they will know how important it will be to pick up those points, and we will be talking about those points a little bit later on here as we get ourselves set. But we do have a lap here of this circuit, and it will be in the hands of the reigning champion. Run it in reverse, the overtaking opportunities become a little bit different as they run through GT, going through turn 3 of the veil, looking to set up their go, and suddenly you're waiting for how late to break at Chapel as the best place to pass, followed by top score.
Yeah, that's the critical thing, isn't it? There's a lot more ample opportunities around here as well. This one is such a line-up set of corners through Beckett's and Maggots, as it's nowadays, in the wrong direction, as they'll head through towards Cops. This is where you'll want to try and line yourself up. You'll get a lovely toe off of the back of this, and then with the DRS open at this particular section, as you head towards Luffield, you've actually got a long sweeping outside of the corner opportunity to potentially break the toe, get around that outside, and then have the inside of the next corner before entering what was Sector 1.
Yeah, now you make the run, set up so easy to spin up the rear tyres here and hopefully put the hole with now entry becomes a case of how much is left. It's just a flick down in from 8 to 7, you have to shut on the brakes then to third gear as you then work through the middle section or loop himself through Sunday Abbey with the very fast final corner that sets it up over for the line. So that is a lap around the circuit. What to reverse all to play for as they get themselves set for racing that they've got. Let's all take a little bit of look here because we've got a couple minutes to run through. I think now's a good time to stop points, actually, just very quickly before we go through, James, because you don't get a point scored for finishing in 20th position in this race. You get one for finishing 19th, and it's 30 points for a win, 25 for second, 22 for third. That 2-point increment going down to 8th place at 12 points. And then from 9th place to 19th, it's 1-point increment down and a point for pole position and fastest lap.
Yeah, it's typical with Ultimate Masters here. You get nothing for finish last. That is the sort of common denominator of this particular championship. But critically, with 30 points on the line for the race victory, 25 for second and 22 for third, the deficit for getting on the lower step of the podium is not that large. So if you do end up being in a position where you are a midfield runner like FRT, who is able to get on the podium regularly with the likes of, let's say, Kevin Zunberg, you could start to pose a little bit of a threat to those that are actually towards the front, especially if they're not consistent. So, as is typical, and as George Russell will no doubt say, consistency is key.
Yep, consistency very much the key to success in a championship like this. If you can consistently find 2 cars up inside the top 10, you've got a very good chance of making that championship yours. Stay with us here with Racing Action on Velocity Esports Racing, because when we come back on the other side of this, we'll be jumping over into qualifying, and brand new for this season, it is all full format for qualifying. A Q1, a Q2, and a Q3 to decide who's on pole for Racing Action here at Silverstone.
And this come.
Twenty drivers then here looking to represent their teams. 5 of them at the end of Q1 are going to be without a chance to jump further forward. 18 minutes then of qualifying available to them, and this is where, James, you start sitting back and saying, who wants what out there in qualifying? Different drivers going for different strategies, thinking, I can make it through. And now we're going to be playing the game here of who wants to do what, who starts on what tyre, who's saving what with these initial runs to go forward to say, I've got an extra tool in the arsenal if I get to Q2, if I get to Q3.
In typical British fashion, who wants it? Who wants it is what they'll be saying out there at the moment as well. If you are just tuning in and just keeping an eye on them, they're thinking, why are people out there at the moment on intermediate tyres on a dry track? Well, they'll just be keeping as many of the tyre allocation that they can, so you will see a few people out there on the intermediate tyre. But we are seeing a few people out there, though, that are electing to start with in this qualifying session on the hard tyre. So obviously trying to save as many softs as they can for the main race ahead of us. Now, the irony of this one as well is that tyre degradation is not as particularly potent on this particular circuit in this direction. So opportunities are opening up in terms of strategy as well, which is why you're seeing that variety of tyre on the left side of your screen. For the first person that will be setting a lap here, Jake, will be the team at Mercedes, and they will be looking to do the best that they can. Well, the Race Speed Championship, that is RSC.
Yep, so RSC will set themselves up, and Race Speed Championship know what they need to do with Enzo Sabaton, who is currently behind the wheel and gearing up for this first attempt. You see there behind these brand new suites of boxes that you can have those homes going for many, many millions if you can get yourself there into club. Then through turn number 1, out of the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight, really trying to maximise the exit, getting very, very close there, grabbing the grass on the exit there of the Vale, and now through Stone, holding on in that 6th gear, and this is where you start blasting up the Hangar Straight. Isn't it great to have the Hangar Straight as part of the first sector again?
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous, isn't it? Chucks the car then through Beckett's and then through Maggots, then in the other direction. Very weird again to keep saying in commentary. Then, of course, he'll now head through towards this big left-hander. Now, this is where we're expecting this corner here to be a big setup in the main race. People get DRS at this point all the way down towards his back straight. And again, that outside sweeping left-hander of Luffield is a great opportunity for some cracking overtaking. So that one to keep an eye out in the race as he checks the car through the right here. There it is, that little tank slapper, well held on that rear, just wanted to step out, but very well handled indeed from Enzo Sabaton as he now heads through into farm.
Yep, so now trying to really open it up through Aintree and now into this outer loop. This is where you're going to have to set up. Now at the village, you are trying to really push for this final run through here. And this is where commitment is won or lost. 7th gear, flat out, just the lightest lift there, dealing through. A 125.9 sets your benchmark then through Enzo Sabaton, and saying that is what is needed for an opening run. Here is Fana Spinoda looking to try and get this Racing Bull over towards the line, and that a 126.1, about 0.2 of a second behind of that. So we're starting to see these first times come in, but as we know, a track evolves and this from TF10, Ryan, saved a tyre out there, a 131.0 on a set of intermediates. What we normally say in a Creator Series term is normally they have an intermediates bonus point. We don't have anything of that ilk here. TF10 Callum setting a great time there, 25.8 on the softs. That's shocking.
Yeah, keep an eye out as well on TF10 Callum. He is racing for Tatum Race Tech despite the gamer tag as well. We keep telling him in other championships change your gamer tag, but he's happy to stick with the TF10 name. Is the Tatum Race Tech driver. As we're just following Ivan Eskrig then in the Ferrari. This is AMR Esports. Now, this is a peculiar one for AMR. Towards the end of last season, they really started to pick up the pace. That's Zito coming across the line here for AMR Esports to go fastest on the medium. As his teammate Ivan Eskrig comes across the line 3/10 slower, but it is currently first and second for AMR.
Yeah, they'll be happy with a 1-2 to get themselves sorted up. There is Track Racer looking to charge for the line. Good enough for Devon there on his set of shots. So that clearly a hold lap there as he was trying to now get ready for the push lap. There is the likes then of TF10 Tiago and co looking to try and make that push. The Williams then is going to be in Golf colours, and it does shock me a little bit. Now, here's what you're going to find with liveries. They are allowed to run special liveries out there on the game, James, but they have to use the same one out there just to make sure they're all in play. So here's my surprise when, of course, a couple of years ago, McLaren ran a Golf livery, and now Williams have one, and now I'm so desperate to call it a McLaren when it's not.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Golf obviously liking to get themselves in a tournament like this one generally anyway, but then, of course, within the Formula One sphere, they're just a cracking livery to look at. But the Williams outfit looking to try and set some early precedent. Then, of course, Williams is TF10 team as well, the third of the Spanish teams taking part in this particular tournament as well, alongside ET8 and AMR. He's now just approaching the final set of corners, of course, in the second sector before he heads down towards Farm. Tiago with the 101 initially is not too bad on a hard tyre, so he's looking to try and get somewhere within the region of Enzo Sabaton, I would suspect, but we'll see how he does for the rest of this lap.
Yeah, pushing then through the final sector, trying to open up the binders then and charge towards that Abbey corner, that fast left-hander, finishes the lap down, and that's only a 126.2, so it's going to be down about 0.3 of a second in terms of pace. And we talk about drivers and their pace, and we expect this to be a very close-fought championship on pace level, James, because of the way they've had to pre-qualify. Unprecedented the amount of teams we had try and qualify for this, 19 into 10.
Yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic qualifier in the end as well. Some teams really getting dangerously close to qualifying, some only missing out by hundredths. And then, of course, I'm just thinking about those that thought they could potentially get in there but lost it by a few seconds. They will have a lot to learn if they want to take part and be the best in the Ultimate Masters. Here is Monza himself then, the Mercedes RSC. His teammate at the moment up in P5 at the moment, that 25.9. A little bit shaky on the rear, but we are expecting that corner because, of course, off camber, it can be a little bit tricky when you get up on that sausage curb. Now, here it is, this big hanger straight. Of course, again, in that first sector is just absolute bliss, but in the wrong direction makes Beckett's and Maggots particularly challenging as TF10 Astala coming across the line, and TF10 team looking like they want to try and set the precedent themselves, going fastest so far with a 1 minute 25.342 and making it a Spanish team 1-2-3.
Yeah, you take that in a heartbeat then with the way that Astala's found that time, but that is the next setter out there in terms of their pace. As far as it goes, only 9 cars have actually gone out and set a time. They've waited for about 9 minutes to go in order to make that happen. Now, that won't really help here, James, the evolution of the circuit. The more cars that there are on track, the more rubber gets laid down, the quicker the track becomes. So taking that rubber away, not running those lap times, that's going to be interesting for what the times do late on in the session.
And remember, this is a circuit that doesn't get particularly warm to start with in the first place anyway, being in the Northern Hemisphere is Great Britain. So, of course, track evolution does become quite prominent the more people that are on it. Here he comes, Monza comes across the line, 125.513.
Good time. Third place, you take that at the moment. You give yourself a buffer. You only need 5 cars behind you to feel comfortable and safe. But there are drivers out there who haven't really made any push. We've seen none of the McLarens out there so far making a push. So nothing from Angry Shark so far. Neither have the Alpines gone out there. So Shizou Cedars Igniters haven't made any progress. Armateo 46 hasn't gone out there at any point so far. That's going to be another name to keep in mind, as well as Ryderdal. And then, of course, both of the Haas's haven't gone out yet. So Future Racing Team, who will want to do better than what they did last year with a 9th place in the championship, this is going to be important for them to state, this is where we're going to be, and this is the pace. SCI just did. Then sitting back and just waiting for them all to give some room to say, look, I can get up to pace, I can get up to speed, and I can find it. And drivers lifting off everywhere. Yellows in every sector for a moment.
Yes, people just starting to realise traffic is becoming a bit of an issue. Kevin Zoonberg, his teammate, by the way, is already on a lap. He's just going through Beckett's and Maggots at the moment as well. So he's going to be one to keep a very firm eye on, because he is typically an individual that has that kind of rhythm. He's not the one that goes fastest of anyone so far, does Kevin Zoonberg. He's not the one that is, absolutely obliterating the lap times, but the sheer consistency of the man when he was at EVR suggested that he's going to be one to watch. Track Evolution starting to come in. Off the side there goes SCI Justin. That might be another lap time he's going to have to throw away. Where's Kevin Zoonberg at the moment? Apologies to the director. I don't mean to chuck him around the circuit, but I am intrigued to see where Zoonberg is at the moment. It's purple second sector. I want to keep that one just a little bit under wraps here, as we've actually got Hoagland coming across the line, and then Tech. There is the man that we expected to be up there as well for SCI. Silo then once again showing the pace there as Alpine go 1 and 2. No surprises, the Scottish outfit are going to be up there. Kevin Zoonberg's race pace usually is a little bit up there in comparison to his qualifying, but he'll come across the line right now. He goes P6, just behind Dylan Hoagland there in the Racing Bulls for Ventauri, but that is just going to be keeping an eye on him, because he is going to be messing things up towards the front, I suspect.
Yeah, and you now start seeing those times, and we are ticking down in this first qualifying session of 3. How late do you leave it? What do you do? ET8 then going for the final chances then out there, as we are on board with Ryderdal, working hard then out of Brooklands and onto the Wellington Straight, leading over towards Aintree Corner and then the outer loop, really chucking the car into the corner and needing the car to respond. It understeers heavily through the hairpin, needing more response then through the left here at Village. Now running through Farm and over to Abbey to end the lap. We'll see what this is going to be. I'd say a 25.3 is good, and at the moment over the line, that's better than that. A 25.288, I would say job well done with that first effort. Amateo down in 9th. Now, I didn't have that on my bingo card. Ivan Eskrig moving up to 2nd. So you're now starting to wonder who actually is safe and what is a safe time. I still think a 0.3 is safe right now with the litany of drivers who haven't put a time in. Enzo Sabaton thinks he's okay. So too does Silo, so too does Tech.
Yeah, Matteo is uncharacteristically slow at the moment, but this game cycle has proved to be a real challenge for him, has the veteran in F1. So it doesn't surprise me at the moment that he's just trying to find his footing out there. And to say the least, AMR looking very good with Iman Eskrig and Axel Zito, though, at the moment splitting the two SCIs out there. I'm keeping an eye on Ryderdal. I'm keeping an eye out on Kevin Zoonberg as well in this one as well. But FRT are being a bit uncharacteristically slow themselves with Justin. He's got a little bit more pace than him than that one has, Justin. So he'll just need to find a bit of a rhythm than that one, because as it stands so far, I don't even think he's going to hit the 107% rule in real life F1. And one thing,
will we let him qualify? Will we
let him qualify? We will let him qualify. That is a great question indeed as well. I'm also keeping an eye on JTO40 as well. He's a veteran within the esports world as well, so it doesn't surprise me Tatum Race Tech have decided to field him here tonight. But and alongside Callum, well down the field at the moment in 16th and 18th place. They'll both be knocked down as it stands.
Yeah, so they need to really jump up. Astala feels like that job is good enough on a 25.3. So if you look around at that 25.3 and say, look, this is where the job well done is going to be needed. We're on board with Fana Spinoda kicking up a lot of grass there through that third sector, just getting a little bit too eager, overcutting the corner on the inside, and this will be a turn back into the pits then, and a little bit of an understanding of what makes the pit lane tough around here. Single file down the hill, that is screaming, I'm going to be speeding.
Yeah, screams speed, and it also screams being caught off guard as well when you go over the crest of the hill. If someone's going particularly slow, to avoid speeding, could you end up absolutely ploughing into the back of them? That is going to be the main question on my lips in terms of that pit entry. Here's RSC with Monza at the moment. P13 is definitely on the brink with a 25.5. I'd expect a little bit more pace than that one at the moment. If you are interested, by the way, 24.7 is usually where we start to get into sort of pole position kind of times, and Silo is capable of that one here tonight. So we are going to be expecting 24.7s if you're going to be at peak performance. If we see 24.6s, it's going to be certainly the fastest I've seen in racing trim.
Top 7 have all retired from the server for this first qualifying effort. Now, I think that's telling as Track Racer is out there on a lap at the moment. 7th gear through Woodcote, looking over towards nearly 8th gear, looking for a place at Lovefield, taking the tight line rather than the diamonded line that you see, which is more of the karting line around that corner. Really trying to attack, but gets a bucket of oversteer over the anti-cut curves there on the inside, and it's looking a little clumsy out there at the moment for All Elite Racing Team. They're going to need a little bit of work here to try and get themselves exactly what they want, and I think you've really got to try and open up the laps, be a bit more aggressive out there, but you've got to be measured. You can't over-attack the corners.
Yeah, I think All Elite Racing Team are expecting to be sort of the lower part of the midfield in this particular championship, and the race pace, the qualifying pace rather at the moment, suggesting that might be the situation, especially alongside uncharacteristically at the moment, Tatum Race Tech. Of course, mostly known for things outside of Formula One, I'm thinking iRacing, but here's Justin, finds a bit more time in the first sector, 84 thousandths of a second, but of course he abandoned his lap, so he's found time in the first sector at least, but the question is what is his lap time actually going to be like in comparison to those around him? Chucks the car through the left-hander. Rear trying to step out of it so often, but allows the car to lose that rear, so then it becomes quite a pointy front end. Into Lovefield then, is the car going to stick like glue? No, he's not. Look at that. Bucket of understeer. Has to go for a second apex at Lovefield. Chucks the car through the right-hander, and then he'll head down this second straight with a, if we're looking for a 101, 101.2, okay, might be within the ballpark.
Yeah, I'd say that's good, but now everyone's going to be realising with a minute to go, they're on their outlaps. They've got to get over the line before the checkered flag waves, and that will allow them the chance to go through. W Monza up to second on that 25.1. That's safe any which way. Fede Mori will be the one, the biggest under threat on a 25.3, 25.2 from SCI Justin. That's safe in terms of time. And round you go. That's going to be TF10 Callum racing there for Tatum Restec, and that will be that for him. So that's one guaranteed to not be in the picture.
Oh, Tatum Race Tech, this is very uncharacteristic of their name, but F1 they're not really known for. JTO Forte, extremely well-known man. He's a man with so much pedigree. I remember commentating over this guy back in F1 2019, so plenty of experience this man has got. Chucks the car through the right-hander. What's this going to be? Is it going to be a 101.2 is what he's looking for, 101.5? Oh, he's really pushing it with a 101.5. He's on the brink, checkered flag waving.
Yeah, so he'll be the first car over the line, and he's got to try and beat out there a 25.5 to be safe. So he will need at least 0.4 of a second. This needs to be a magical final sector to get the job done. We'll see this over the line because it is a long drag towards it. It's only 18. So that's going to be one gone. We know that we're losing TF10 Callum as well. So that is both for Tatum Restec out the picture. Kevin Zunerberg looking for safety out there, so you've got to ask whether Track Race is going to do well. There's TF10 Ryan up there in the kick-sub for All Elite. That's good enough for 11th, so that's going to knock down Tiago into trouble. Zunerberg on the bubble then as they go. Fana Spinoda stays on a 25.4. That's going to be alert to everyone here. Zunerberg,
much better.
Fastest for Matteo over the line then. 25 flat, said, I was never in doubt on this one. So now the question is, Tiago, Spiga, it's going to be Kevin Zunerberg to the line. That's safe in 7th. Is it Tiago, Spiga, now or Fana Spinoda who's down then in trouble because Tiago goes 8th. going forward. Is Spiga going to knock Fede Mori out? No, is the answer. Fede Mori was in trouble on a 25-3, left the session, didn't have a time, and very nearly got knocked out by his own teammate. That would have been an angry shark all over.
Yeah, Angry Sharks managing to keep one driver in, but one driver being reduced as a result of that one. Fana Spinoda down in P16. Ventauri will be very disappointed with that one. They're a team who have been really on the brink of knocking on the door of those towards the front, and to have one person knocked out in Q1 of the first race of this series, they're not going to be happy about that one.
No, they're not, but the one caveat is they will have choice of tyre for what they need to do to race, as they will look to push. So the 5 out, Fana Spinoda in 16th, the Angry Shark Racing Team Spiga driver there in 17th, Track Racer, JTO40, and TF10 Callum. We'll step aside for one moment. We'll be back with Q2 after this.
Wow, I thought you were at risk there.
Q2. And so now the setting is as follows. We take 5 drivers away again, leave you with a top 10. And sometimes we talk about this over and over again, James. Q2, the battle to get in, sometimes is hotter than the fight for pole.
Oh, wow, is what I will be saying to that one. So, very, very mixed bag there. Ventauri will not be happy at all. They've lost one in Q1. I know they're a team that strives for perfection, to say the least, and to have one person knocked out in Q1 in the first round of this particular season, they will be disappointed with that one. I think they'll be taking some learnings very early on if they want to try and damage limitate for the second half of the season. So we've got a particularly difficult set of races ahead of them. But that's then. This is now Q2, 13 minutes to go. Early suggestions, SCI definitely looking like they're going to be up there as well. AMR, they found the pace. They could be up there as well. But one thing that does shock me just a little bit, despite the fact Matteo managed to get up there at the last second, ET8 looking a little bit quiet.
Well, I think quiet's all right to start a season. I think they want to make the noise later, so we'll see how the noise will sound a little bit later on. Knowing that these first times are going to be benchmarks once again, it's a case of safety versus confidence, and who feels confident to start ratcheting up the engine and starting to use a bit more of that battery, really pushing those lap times, really pushing what the cars are capable of out there. That's where you're going to start looking around. And I think the quiet one are your Season 2 champions, Suzuki's Igniters. I think they're the team that maybe is just keeping things a little bit hush-hush, but have something to prove out there.
We know that the 24s are definitely possible around this particular circuit. 24/7 was a cracking pole position that I saw only a few weeks ago. Now, of course, this game cycle has, of course, evolved over the last few months, so every possibility that we could see something faster than a 24/7. But I'm thinking Silo really should be knocking on the door right at the front. He initially showed it in the first part of Q1. He doesn't need to push too aggressively in this early phase, but as we start getting through these qualifying, we should start to see people picking up the pace, as I do believe we have a hard tyre runner. You're absolutely right. Ryan has set himself out on a set of hards, as Starler going fastest.
Yeah, 125.4, so that pretty much in the ballpark of what we saw in Q1. A 26 flat from Tech is going to sort that out. So these times are starting to look as, again, benchmarks for what we can do in the next stage going forward. Interesting to use a hard tyre, and interesting to see there Fede More jumping straight back into the pits after that attempt, missing 3 minutes. You can't just lollygag around and say that lap's not going to be good enough for me, because you lose time. You're always on a timer here. So if you lose 3 minutes, that's 3 minutes you can't be working out. What do I need to do to set the car up how I need it to be to make this work for my lap time?
And remember, of course, it's an extremely long pit lane as well, so you're losing more time than perhaps you even realise as well, as we're just seeing Enzo Sabaton coming across the line. You set a tyres, I suspect, with a 25.9. Keeping an eye out on Matteo as well, so of course this is the man who managed to get the fastest lap in Q1, of course, at the very last second indeed. He's very characteristic of this man as well. He's ever the veteran is Matteo, and of course a long-time stander with ET8. But the driver looking just needs, that extra lap, just to find a little bit of confidence in the car that he's driving, and then he'll feel confident that he can get around the circuit as fast as he possibly can. No age showing at all on the veteran here in F1 Esports. Keep an eye out though on Matteo, as he's actually going to get quite a lovely tow as well. That could help him out just a little bit. Dodging out of the way though is that car, and down to the right hand side as he heads to farm.
So making the progress then, staying well out of the way, the respect of the racing rules, not to block, not to impede, not to do anything that's going to cause some troubles. The two AMR Ferraris then second and third, then giving themselves once more a little bit of the security blanket, and over the line goes our Matteo, and it's only a 25.6 as a benchmark, and those times are looking a little bit slower than what we saw going out there in Q1, which will indicate to me that this track is getting a little bit more slippery out there compared to what it was, which indicates to me the tyres maybe not reaching the window that they could do in slightly cooler conditions.
Yeah, potentially. Could also be you set of soft tyres as well. In the same vein that someone was using the hard tyre earlier. They're trying to keep their allocation here, because remember, this is a circuit where the tyre degradation, believe it or not, is not as aggressive. It's the most aggressive round here at Beckett's and Maggots. I couldn't remember get it the wrong way around to get it the right way around as he heads through now towards Corps. He'll want to try and line this one up here. We did see a little mistake from him earlier on here, pick up a little bit of grass. None on that occasion, though. DRS open as he heads towards Luffield. I see a few people like to try and hug that inside curb. What will Justin do here? Goes for the double apex move, allows the car to wash out that little bit wider so he can have the nice entry going through this right-hander. Rhea tries to step out on end exit 1016, immediately suggesting he's on a used set of softs.
Yeah, so this is just to try and preserve tyre life, just give a buffer to really go out there and attack. And I would say then, if that's the case from every driver, then no driver's time right now is safe heading themselves into the final stages of Q2. But we're nearing that halfway stage. We'll see what it is from SCI Justin, whether there's a lot or a little to do. 9th only on a 25.8. So that, to me, is screaming, okay, I will have a lot of work to do. Kevin Zuneberg's going to be another driver who will be looking to try and get the time sorted. No times yet from him. Of course, from the All Elite Racing Team driver, TF10 Ryan. From Fede Mori from the Angry Shark Racing Team, and neither for Dylan Hergeland either. So those are drivers who will be thinking, right, where am I going to find that time, and how aggressive can I be? Because that's going to be too aggressive from TF10 Ryan. Copse Corner is normally a very fast entry in, and it opens out. Now you've got a very late entry into Copse Corner, tightens on you quicker than a whisper.
Yeah, and it's important you get your setup right as well, because if you've got too much of a pointy front end, you can realise that you're turning the car, and next thing you know, you're in a very, very close wall on that outside edge of the turn. So just keep an eye out on that one, because we've seen a few people struggling just a little bit with the rear in this very early part of this qualifying session. Again, use soft tyres is what we suspect people are using. Either that or there is a little bit of track devolution on circuit. As it now heads through Luffield here, does Fedmori as well, the Angry Sharks Racing Team driver, the only one as well, as of course after his teammate was knocked out of Q1. He's now chucking his car now towards farm, and a very critical set here, lap for 1012 suggests, is this a new set of soft tyres potentially on the car now? We could be knocking on the door of the 25.4s again if this is a new set of softs here.
I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a new set with Fedemore jumping into the pits early. So wanted an extra lap maybe on the set of the new soft tyres, and that a 25.3. Well, there's your indicator out there looking to make that push and setting what I would call the first real time here of Q2 on the board. That's going to tell everybody else, if you're not on a new set, there's no way you're getting through.
Yeah, Kevin Zernberg currently nursing his car around the circuit, just entering the pit lane now, ran out of fuel. Oh, wow, Ryan just getting a tank of understeer going through Luffield. Here's Dylan Hoagland, then the last of the Ventauri drivers, of course, after one was knocked out, goes fastest, 25.119, starting to get perilously close now to the very low 25s. Maybe we're going to start seeing early 24s in this session, as Tech Brutal, right on cue, 24.926.
Yeah, perfectly found. Ryderdal goes second on a 25 flat. So the game now is set. Shazoo Cedars Igniters and ET8 are looking like they want to be the ones who set the pace. We watch then with Silo going through Brooklands corner there with the BRDC, they're on the left-hand side there, who are putting everything they want to together on the board and saying, look, this is where Great British Racing is brought through, the British Drivers Racing Club there. And again, we see AMR second and fourth. They are right in the picture. You can sprinkle it in like the Salt Bay.
Yeah, it's been a sort of high midfield team for a while, but so far looking particularly strong. Silo not looking particularly strong, with still in the 125s. I think there's definitely more pace in Silo than that one, but AMR and ETA also getting in the mix there as well means that every 100th of a second could be the difference between you being on the front row and potentially being on the third row as it stands so far. A couple of bites at the cherry from TF10's Astala there, looking to try and get the car turned in, so perhaps opposite strategy potentially in terms of setup for TF10 team, looking to try and have a little bit more in terms of the rear, perhaps a bit of a low downforce strategy for the main race. Well, it's working, an absolute treat. He goes fastest so far, another one, 24. Call the emergency services, 911.
Yeah, what's your emergency? Well, I was at risk of being out in Q2 was the worry that was there, but with 3 minutes 50, now if you're out there with about 3:50 to go, you're going to have to push. Tech feels that 24.9 is safe. Now, that is brave.
Thinking about it, yeah, you know what, 24.9 with people starting to improve at the rapid rate of knots. I think Tech will start to see his name potentially tumble down the standings, but he might be okay. Ivan Eskrig ran out of fuel, so he drives into the pit lane. Where's SCI Justin on an outlap at the moment? As it stands, both of the FRT drivers will be knocked out of qualifying. Justin well off the pace with a 25.8. Kevin Zunberg, he'd set a 102 in the second sector on his last lap and then abandoned it, so he knew he didn't have the pace. Kevin Zunberg actually for the first time uncharacteristically under a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, and so with that bit of pressure there on Kevin Zunberg, you'd start to wonder whether it's going to have to be just hotshot one lap of qualifying. Any one mistake hits you harder than most, because you know that's what you've got to have. You've made your bed, you're going to have to lie in it however it is made. Enzo Sabaton currently in 8th position for RSC Esports. The other driver, W Monza, in 12th. So there are names right now. I would say if it ended like this, it's a topsy-turvy grid that we've got for the top 10 shootout. That's probably not how it's going to play at the end, But one thing we can say is SCI Justin gears it up for a big lap. ET8 Ryder Dahl feels like that's safe on a 25 flat. Now, that's definitely not safe in my book.
Could be close, that one as well, but I'm looking at the moment at the top four, all from completely different teams as well, which goes to just show again that it just is all about finding that 100th of a second. It is about trying to be absolutely perfect on these early laps here, and I think that is actually going to make for a very interesting Q3 indeed. Here is Matteo. As it stands, he's knocked out of qualifying with a 1:25.690, though his lap, of course, on a set of soft tyres that were used. So he has got an opportunity to earn some time back. And we know the first run typically not the best for Matteo, but in Q1 anyway, it was certainly the fastest of anyone right at the end.
So top 5 have all decided I'm not going to go out and get another lap. Otso Zito is in the pit, and I think it's going to be really close for Otso Zito to get around in time. A minute 14 from Stowe Corner is going to be right on the bubble to see whether that's going to be a lap or not, as we focus on through, trying to really hustle here is Mateo 46, the driver on the outside, looking in with a minute to go here, and this is where you are gearing everything to this. Am I in the top 10 or am I not?
Now, the critical thing here, remember, as well, as out of the top 5, both of the Alpines, that's SCI, have decided to retire from this session, so they cannot go out there and have another go at this one. But meanwhile, the other teams have got at least one driver out there trying to push as hard as he can. Here is Matteo pushing as hard as he can. Round Corps looking fairly clean, to be fair, as he now heads all the way down towards Luffield.
I wonder if this is misjudged by Otso Zito, and I wonder if it's going to cost him a place in the top 10, because he's only making his way now along the Wellington Straight, and he's going to need to be at full bore with 13 seconds remaining on the clock. So keep an eye out on this. Watch out. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. I don't think you're going to make it, Sunshine. I don't think you're going to make it. And the checkered flag will fall on Otso Zito. That is a rookie mistake. And will it be punished by Hergeland, by Sabaton, Fedemori, Thiago, Mateo 46, W Monza? Here comes Mateo 46 to third position. There's one gone. Now you've got to start looking at everyone else. Enzo Sabaton working away then through Beckett's and Maggots, and now to the line. Pit for W Monza. Another one as we get that through. DJ Khaled's watching. Now here comes the chance. Thiago, only 9th, matches the time of Otso Zito. So we'll be behind on the numbers we can't see. Here comes TF10 Ryan for All Elite, and that is only 12th. So that's one that you faded in terms of your run.
Wow.
Hergeland goes quickest on a 24.8. Not good enough from SCI Justin. That's not going to work. But Kevin Zuneberg might be the one to jump up. And we still wait on Enzo Sabaton, who could have something to say, along with Fede Mori. This is where Zuneberg needs to find the run. 25 wants to beat for 25.5. Stuck in 15. That's not the Kevin Zuneberg we know and love. Enzo Sabaton needs 300th to jump Otso Zito and Thiago crossing the line. That's good enough. P4 as it goes. Fede Mori to the line. I think has just knocked out Otso Zito over the line. It is going to be enough, we believe. Oh, that one's going to sting as they go to the line. Otso Zito is out, missing the checkered flag.
Oh, wow. 29 thousandths of a second separating 10th and 11th. And Thiago setting exactly the same lap time as Otso Zito as well. 29 thousandths of a second separating 10th from 12th. That is Ultimate Masters at its finest.
It absolutely is. Stay with us here with your Ultimate Masters Q3 after this. Game on. The chance for pole position now sets itself ready. 10 drivers representing their various teams, all trying to say with confidence that they will be the ones who stand on top. Only 3 teams have managed to get both their drivers into the top 10, and they are RSC Esports, ET8 Esports, and then on top of that, the Alpines of Shazoo Cedars Igniters. Everybody else is on one driver only for their teams, and they are now looking at this qualifying as absolutely must-make, James.
Yeah, biggest shock for me out of all of this one was FRT. Both of the Haas drivers down at the back of Q2. Zumberg just could not get a lap together in the end as well. And that, again, it's characteristic of the fact that he hasn't quite got the pace in comparison to everyone else. But usually, he's a little bit faster than that. And then when he does that, he starts knocking on the door and starts being a bit of a villain towards the front runners. So very disappointed to see FRT down at the back. But what can they do from the 7th row of the grid? First person to be setting a lap, though, will be ETS Mateo once again, probably on a old set of soft tyres.
Yeah, so this is just to set a little bit of a sighter to understand what the track conditions are doing out there. A look then as everybody sets up. Mateo going through the first sector and saying, look, I need a good time. It's a very slow opening sector compared to what we expect out of Silverstone. Then it really ramps up for sector 2. You really get the sense of pace. You really get the sense of feel. You will get a sense of feel if you run wide through Stowe Corner of what gravel feels like on the outside right tyre.
Yeah, wouldn't have felt good, that one, through his steering wheel. The steering wheel just jolting ever so slightly left and right as he got up on that gravel trap. Wouldn't have cost him too much time, but he'll know that the tyres are definitely done for with the understeer as he now heads through Cops, now down towards Luffield. This will be, as said, in the race trim, a very good opportunity for overtaking, but will it be holding the inside line or will it be a double take? It will be a double take on the entry, but he did miss it by a considerable margin, did Mateo. He's leaving tenths of a second out on the circuit.
Yeah, and leaving those times, those tenths, you'd say that there is more to be found and there is more to gain. There locks up, trying to get it through the corner there of the outer loop. So I think you're really starting to understand. And a wiggle on exit. Yeah. This is not a comfortable lap time from Mateo, and this is not what we expect from a driver of his quality. Yeah, it's a 25.6, but again, that's an old set of tyres.
Old set of tyres, but he will not be happy the fact that it's a 25.6 and an old set of tyres, because the Starler comes across the line and we're already seeing people now into the 1:24s on an old set of tyres. That is a cracking lap from the TF10 team man himself. Here's Monza as well. This is the Race Speed Championship RSC man looking to take the car through the right hand. He's been locking up that front right tyre through this corner, and he's done it again, has Monza, but he's not losing too much time around there, clearly, so he's confident despite the fact that he's getting that little lock up through there. Here he comes then through the final couple of corners, looking to try and set himself early precedent here for RSC. Will he go fastest? He will not. 25.2.
Oh, Tech, 24/7. We talked about 24/7 being the benchmark, and he certainly sent it. So the question now will be, who is going to be Duplantis and go over the top of it?
24/7 is what we were setting in an early part of Q3 in another championship, but it was all hundredths of a second in the end here. If that is a new set of tyres, SCI might have already peaked a little bit early. If that's an old set, wow, we could be going even faster than that one. Even Eskrig AMR splitting the two Scottish team outfits there with another 24/7 of his own.
Yeah, that's a 7.68 compared to the 7.99 of Silo, so the difference being found. Fedemori out there looking to try and push the hopes of the Angry Shark Racing team forward at the 11th hour, getting into the top 10 and trying to really mastermind this qualifying session, knowing that every time is going to count. 6:45 on the clock, so I wouldn't say we're at the stage of panic at the moment. There's still that early benchmark, and even if you're inside that top 10, I'd still say job well done for everyone who's in that top 10, but there'll be those looking for a top 5. That is going to be a square set of tyres there from Ryder Dahl.
Yeah, they'll be driving on 50 pence pieces at the moment. Will the Red Bull driver represented ET8 Esports, a Spanish outfit, looking to try and put one over on SCI at the moment. Of course, remember that 10 point penalty rather for the Scottish outfit, but so far not really shaking them with first and third, as both of the RSC men going fifth and sixth, and ET8 down the order in seventh and eighth. Albeit though we are on a U set of soft tyres, as we're following the only angry shark now, Fedimore, on his one and only lap on these old tyres before he switches over to a new. What's it going to be when he comes across the line, chucking the car through what was turn one? He will come across the line, set a 1:25.1 and puts himself slap bang in the middle in P5.
That's all right for the moment. I wouldn't say that's bad in terms of what Fedimore was trying to get at here with Sabaton and Monza 6th and 7th. You've got Ryderdal and Matteo 8th and 9th. Dylan Hergeland, the only one who's yet to set a time. This is going to be about who does what. Remember that Dylan Hergeland set the fastest time in Q2. Matteo, fastest time in Q1. And Tech is the benchmark in Q3. So question is, have you peaked too early through Q1 and Q2? Have you shown your hand at how quick you can go?
Yeah, potentially, and that obviously changes the mindset, not necessarily about how the cars are set up at that point, but the mindset of the drivers is completely different. If you're going out there and you're already setting 24.9s in the beginning part of Q2, you know you've got to up your pace, and as a result, you'll be willing to take more risks. More risks equals more reward. So SCI, top of the board at the moment with Tech Brutal. Silo in P3, not joint on the front row with even Eskrig. They're the AMR driver in P2. But for me, ET8, 8th and 9th, that is particularly low for them. But both Hergeland and Matteo are more known in this qualifying session for setting the faster lap time, a considerably faster lap time, that is, towards the end of the qualifying session. 4.5 to go.
So, most drivers pulling it back into the pits at this moment in time. And I think what that's going to tell us here, James, is that nobody wants to go out here at this 4-minute stage of qualifying. They all want to be down in pits. They all want to wait for that final chance to get out there, to go and get that time on the board and get itself set. So this is a showdown, basically, that everyone's waiting for. And I ask the question, who dare blink first?
That's a great question. Who does blink first in this one? Because with the time so tightly compacted, I mean, we're talking, what's that, 69 thousandths of a second? Nice, between the three drivers at the front. If you do blink, it's you are actually losing around about that amount of time. So you've got to make sure that you're absolutely all over it, that your eyes are wide open, and you're making sure you're hitting every apex to absolute perfection. If you miss it even just by that millimeter, thousandths of a second will fall away. It'll be left on the circuit. And the point of the matter is, you don't get pole position. You need to be perfect if you want to be on top and get that singular point.
Well, that 1 point adds up, because if you can get 10 pole positions over the course of the championship, that's 10 points. 10 points doesn't sound like much, but it is absolutely everything of what they go. There goes Tech Brutal out with what is 3 minutes on the clock to try and get set and ready for that run. We'll have one or a couple of the cars there in front. One of the Mercs are out there first and foremost. So that'll be W Monza setting the pace for everybody out there. The question now, it's not just do you want to be out there, it's who do you grab a toe off of this late in the qualifying session, because we see it so often. You get a 1/10 of a second, you will have the ability to go and garner that each and every single straight.
Oh, that's a great question as well, because the thing is, you've got plenty of options around you as well, where you've only got hundredths of a second separating you between, being on a different part of the grid. You could potentially try and pack yourself behind even Eskrig if you're a silo, and you know that you're going to find, tenths of a second behind him. But you've got to make sure that you don't end up catching up, because if you do so, your lap times are only going to end up being incredibly similar. And if anything, you'll lose all that time anyway. Oh, we've got people getting a little bit of traffic around there as well. I don't think people trying to get over the line quickly, because they know that people have been caught out. And I think that was the Ferrari of even Eskrig. And I think that's probably AMR really taking the learnings early on after they lost their team. Of course, they ended up losing a driver to the checkered flag, didn't they, of course, earlier on in qualifying. We have got a very small amount of time to go. This is the battle for pole.
It is, and so now you start to question whose pace is going to work. There's now a little bit of weaving, try and keep the tyre temperature up in the carcasses. First driver out there, Mateo 46. Not going to play those games. He's just want to go out there, set a quick lap and say, beat that. Trying to work hard. Coming out then through the Vale and now up the hill in towards Stowe Corner. Not much elevation change around this circuit. This former World War II airfield here in Towcester, Northamptonshire, England. But cresting the rise up towards Chapel Corner here, which is this flick right. Then you've got the left here that comes along. Beckett's is then this right. And then Maggots is not this left-hander, it's that right.
Great first sector as well from Matteo. It's a characteristic again of this man. Chucks the car through Cops and then he'll be heading towards Luffield. Sector 2 split will be coming up at the end of that particular section of circuit. What's he going to do here again? We saw him. He lost the traction on the front. He's lost it again at Luffield though. So he'll go for that second apex again, missing it. Doesn't take as much of a wider line through there though. So he's not opening up this corner. 101 is what we're looking for. 10 is what we're getting. 1.8 is looking very strong indeed, is Matteo, as he now approaches this final sector. Wants to chuck this car in as close as he possibly can to these curbs without touching these sausage curbs. It's looking particularly racy. It's looking planted at the moment for the ET8 man. Checkered flag is now waving. What's it going to be? Is he going to beat Tech? Oh, no. He doesn't. 24.762. It's 32 thousandths.
Just short. Ivan Eskrig, 24.6. Jumps up over the board. Tech can't improve enough to make that happen. So is it there? Silo! 24.622 goes to the top and gets it sorted. Monza goes sixth only on a 24.9. But now the questions continue. Ryderdal onto a 24.8. We work with Astala trying to go through. Hogeland is fifth, but now it's Astala's turn. Stays seventh on a 24.9. It's down to Fede Mori and Enzo Sabaton. Fede Mori only seventh on a 24.8. 1 minute, 0.7 from Enzo Sabaton. That's in the wheelhouse. Did he slightly lock up, though? Going into the fourth to last corner there of the outer loop. This is all on. Now, can Enzo Sabaton shock the world right now? Here he comes on the Lewis Hamilton straight. No, he can't. Silo will take pole for Shazoo Cedars Igniters. Oh boy, what a qualifying we have had. The script yet to change as they get themselves sorted, but critically for Enzo Sabaton, front second row, that's not bad.
Oh, top four separated by only a tenth of a second as well. Impeccable stuff. That is the Ultimate Masters in qualifying, and SCI go from -10 to -9.
Yeah, so that tells you all you need. 1 point in the back pocket. We'll be right back with your starting grid in just a moment.
Wow, nice one, mate. Wow.
And so the grid is set for racing action here in the Velocity Ultimate Masters opener from the reverse of Silverstone. And Tatum Restek are right at the back. TF10 Caleb and JT040 are going to have work to do, with the likes of Track Racer and ASRT Spiga having to charge. The Angry Shark back there in 17th position. We will move on over then to the next rows, where you got on row 8 Fana Spinoda, and then the two future racing team cars who will be thinking about that going not quite what we needed. Kevin Zuneberg and SCI just in the second of the all-elite cars there, with TF10 Ryan. It will be there in 13th. Lucky for some. In 12th position then on this run will be TF10 Tiago, the first of the actual TF10 drivers, with Otso Zito in 11th, and then the first of the RSCs, W Monza, there in 10th, TF10 Astala there on the 5th row in P number 9, mid-run for TF10. Over then 8th through 5th, rows 4 and 3, where the second Angry Shark of Fede Mori finds itself, and then you got two ET8 cars, Linus Stern, Ryder Dahl and Armateo 46. You then got Dylan Hergeland, who did a great job of putting the car up there for Ventauri in 6th position. And then your front four, which is led, of course, in 4th position by the second of the RSC esports drivers, that being Enzo Sabaton. Tech Brutal then for Shazoo Cedars Igniters, third. Ivan Eskrig, second for AMR, but it's SCI Silo who put qualifying in the perfect position here for the qualifying it needed to sort itself up. Jake Sperry and James Otter bringing you coverage, and it might just be a case here, James, of looking around at that session, and doesn't it look like Storm Goretti's already hit?
Yeah, Storm Goretti's definitely over here in Oxfordshire. Good evening, everyone. Should be in for an absolute cracker of a race ahead of us as well. Over on the esports console scene, if you will, Silo Tech and Ivan Eskrig probably are the fastest drivers out there at the moment, so it's no surprise that they are at the front three. But SCI are the team to keep a very firm eye on. They start on the back foot, remember, though, on -10. They recover it to -9 as the race gets going.
Here we go. 5 likes then, getting themselves set, lights on, and wet tires, because we are underway in the Velocity Ultimate Masters, and it's going to be a very important start here as Ivan Eskrig has got that sorted, taking out marker boards, though, running wide, charging in through the next left and right. It is very tough. A lot of sliding about on intermediate tires. Silo's covered it off. Enzo Sabaton already up there. Yellow flags then through the opening start as drivers try and work their way through. Spiga all the way to the back, but a critical start for many.
Yeah, torrential rain out there at the moment in Silverstone's offering opportunities for people around the circuit if you've managed to adapt quickly. Those people that have adapted quickly gaining the most out of this one, keeping a very firm eye out on the Mercedes himself. RSC Enzo Sabaton started to put that immediate pressure, getting himself into P2. Is he going to start chasing Silo down, I wonder? Tech also getting in there as well. Dylan Hoagland up in P5 as well. What a start from him. Actually, P4, he's racing at the moment with the SCI man of Tech Brutal, who's having a bit of a brutal start to this race, if I'm perfectly honest with you. And Ventaure, very happy to see one driver up in P4, but the other driver trying to gain and make some ground here. Look at this, potentially going 3 wide through there as well. That's particularly careful around that circuit when it's that wet.
Yeah, Tech up by a second now, down to fit. Look at the way they slide and try and get it sorted. Mateo were then behind Tech Brutal, really trying to find that way through as we go on board, looking along the Wellington straight, and you might need a couple Wellington boots to try and get yourself sorted through here. The understeer really telling here from Tech as there goes some front wing from Enzo Sabaton. It looks like there is sliding about is Ivan Eskrig in second position, just about clear then to go up into second. But Silo now a second and a half clear. Now it's great, he's got 30 points in the back pocket. He needs Tech to do well. If Tech keeps falling, then what will it matter?
It's a classic scenario here where perhaps the circuit is wet enough for the full wet tyre. The full X-Wet is probably the right tyre to be on, but of course the X-Wet is such a low level of a capability before it becomes better to be on the intermediate. So it makes sense. Use the intermediate this early on because of course you'll gain that time back as the race goes on rather than making that pit stop. That's why everyone's on the Inter. That's why everyone is sliding all over the place. That's why everyone is understeering everywhere. It's going to be a little bit of a mad start.
And it will do until a dry line starts to form. So they'll be basically running on buckets trying to hold this sorted. So here goes Iago trying to figure out a way with TF10 Ryan. They're going to go side by side through the S's, through Beckett's, now towards Maggots. Oh, this is brilliant. As I head towards Cops, too much curb on the inside. Thank you, says Callum. Trying to go around the outside there for Tatum Raztech. Doesn't quite manage it at Cops, but that is a lovely steal of a freebie to get that place. Diving for the inside now. Mateo jumping against Tech to try and get that pass sorted. Can he confirm it at Brooklands? Is no the answer, but look at how hard they're going to fight, and it's a pure drive because wet conditions, no drag reduction system.
Yeah, Tech has been really struggling in these early phases. He has just not been able to find any mechanical grip. Oh, wow. There is Tech. You can see braking far too late into that curb. He loses one. He may lose another here as Astala gets the move around the outside. Then the TF10 man. He's now up to 6th. And SCI have got a little bit of a split, which is so uncharacteristic for the Scottish outfit.
No, and they do. 145.3. All the trouble's been behind, and SCI Justin then trying to work through. Not a member of Shazoo, but more rather in his effort, trying to do what he can. Holds through on W Monza, up 4 spaces off the start, and we see this with Justin quite a bit. Someone who doesn't necessarily qualify the greatest, but knows how to gain the places in the race.
Oh, this is fabulous stuff then at the moment. Anyway, and look, Justin, there's a few people that have said, get rid of that tag, my friend. You're not an SCI man anymore. And he has been, you know, a little bit of mind games potentially as a result of this one. But actually, he's getting perilously close to the back of the first of the SCI men being Tech. Here's a little scrap happening at Zito and Ryder Dahl. This is between AMR Esports and the ET8 team. Of course, now Zito up 2 positions after being knocked out of qualifying, of course, in Q2. Started P11, he's now up to P9. His teammate, Ivan Eskrig, though, back up to P2, managing to get the move done on Enzo Sabaton. So he now begins a chase down of Silo, but he's already 3 seconds up the road.
And 3 seconds in a field like this might as well feel like 30 seconds sometimes. The way that they go about it, how they drive, how close, how tight-knit these drivers are in terms of pace. We focus then from the helicopter at Mateo there with Dylan Hoagland up then into 4th position. You got Astala back there in 6th, and now you're seeing that dry line start to form as they get consensus on where the fastest part of the circuit is. Everybody now finds a line to tiptoe on around here, James, and that will now give them a lot of help when they're out there and pushing. And as I'm looking around here, the group now is about who wants to jump off the line to find that pace. 45.2 from Silo, fastest lap of the race and a bonus point as we focus with Astala, who is now up into that 6th place, and Tech will be looking behind, seeing Ryder Dahl there in 8th, who would love to jump up and get a second one of those ET8 cars ahead of the second of the Shizou Cedar cars back over to Track Racer.
Yeah, keep a very firm eye at the moment on Ventauri as well, because Dylan Hoagland as well from P6 to P4 is a great effort. Fana Spinoda also up 3 positions from 16th to 13th. He's in his own little scrap at the moment. This very tight-knit group of drivers here with Track Racer down at the back of this little group. We've also got, looks like the Williams there of Tiago getting a little bit offline there. Dry line starting to form pretty strong now, so intermediate tyre now the right tyre to be on. Would have begged the question, though, if anyone elected to start on that wet tyre, if anyone was brave enough to start on that wet tyre, where could they be at this point in the race? Because, of course, they could just drive off the line and just cool the tyres down that way. So at this part of the race, the wet tyres might still have been kind of raceable at the moment.
Yeah, but you look at it through this sort of section, you have to be going way offline to try and find the way through, and so often you find that in wet tyre spec here on this game, it's a case of your intermediates like your soft tyre, your wet tyres like your hard tyre, basically, and so everyone's always going to run soft because there's no need to run to it. But Silo with a really lovely gap of things at the moment. Justin up 4, now looking for 5 out there, as this is a big layout down the inside there, trying to get by Otso Zito. That one was a little bit cheeky there, doesn't quite get the run. Otso Zito covers it back at the village, and now they'll run in through farm, and now they'll start wondering here, is it inside at Abbey? Oh my goodness gracious, down the inside and around the outside. They still hold it together. Fantastic stuff between the pair. Justin is up tonight, but he's overcooked it again.
Oh, he's overcooked it. He got too excited, didn't he, as he gets that move done, and he thought he got it done in a lovely switchback only 3 corners prior to that, but then he makes that mistake going through what was the final corner in the normal direction, going into the Vale chicane, and he's now back behind Axel Zito. This is more what I'm expecting from FRT. They're the ones in the closer battles. They're the ones getting in there. Justin's in there. Where is Kevin Zumberg in this race? He's been the biggest shock for me. Still down in P14.
Just hasn't been able to make the progress off the start, and we are on lap 5, and because we're running a 50% race, this is going to be worth talking about with these intermediate tyres. Double wear.
Oh, double wear indeed. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle from there. I think that was Kevin Zumberg. We're back with Justin at the moment, though, as he's trying to close down again on Zito, getting closer and closer, heading through to Luffield. No opportunity for overtaking on there just yet. It's like a swimming pool going through there at the moment if you go offline. So, great way to cool the tyres down, but not a great place for overtaking at the moment. Anyway, as you can see, look at this. You can see the car just not able to get the front end in because the rear wants to constantly step out. So you're effectively drifting the car around these corners. That is not the cleanest, not the quickest way around here. So it is all about how you get that power down. Get it in gently, but get it in as quickly as you can, and you'll be able to make some inroads. And this is exactly what Justin is doing, as we're now following Dylan Hoagland as he's trying to defend here from Matteo. Silo going fastest of lap so far, 44.5.
Yeah, they are starting to speed up and find where they put that in. This is where we're seeing the energy deployment actually, I think, being really interesting, just in around 50 to 30%. I look at someone like Dylan Hoagland, look on the steering wheel, that's at almost full at the moment. So real big changes in terms of how you're going through. Of course, you can run yourself in different modes. You can put it in harvest mode, you can go full out there on attack, on overtake, but Dylan Hoagland at 0.7 of a second keeps himself honest with the slipstream in front of Enzo Sabaton, and I don't think it's really under any pressure at the moment. This is just, can I keep it calm? Answer at the moment is yes. Do I need to burn my hybrid energy? Answer's no.
Yeah, keeping it nice and cool, nice and easy is Dylan Hoagland at the moment. He's under no pressure really from anyone behind. He doesn't feel Matteo is actually putting any kind of concernable pressure at the moment on the Racing Bull. But the Racing Bull himself happy to keep Enzo Sabaton under a little bit of pressure. Diving to the left-hand side, a few cars there getting off of the racing line, trying to cool the tyres down ever so slightly, which is a bit early in this race for that to be happening. But dry line really starting to form now here at Britain Reverse. 20 laps to go. Silo extending his lead in this race now to 4.2 seconds.
Absolutely flying in these early goings. 6 different teams inside your top 6. If it's not going to be an easy championship for any team out there, you're certainly seeing why. On board with your race leader, Silo, working through then the final corner of Abbey and onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight, and proving that this track is getting quicker and quicker. A 1:44.2, another couple tenths of a second on that lap. And the more fastest laps we see, I think they're just waiting for a break in the clouds, a break in the intensity of rain. The quicker that they go, the more chance we've got of seeing a little bit of strategy being put into the hands. Dylan Hoagland now still sat there. This group really coalescing behind Enzo Sabaton at this moment. And 3 seconds, first penalty for cutting comes into play from Callum, side by side. Here comes a Starler looking for a chance on the hanger straight up the hill. Can't quite get a run. Williams trying to work it by Red Bull. Ain't gonna work, buddy.
Yeah, don't typically see the racing happening in the wet around here, never mind in the wrong direction. Losing the rear again is Matteo, so obviously he's feeling the pressure at the moment from the TF10 team man. And a load of Spanish teams just really sort of rinsing the grid up at the top at the moment. So there's definitely a really big concatenation of that nation at the moment, if you will, out there. And Estala just losing a little bit of time, though, as he goes through cops. Now, I want to go on board with Matteo just very briefly, because he is actually making a little bit of pressure now on Dylan Hoagland, actually. But then you see there, he washes out wide, and I don't know if that's the way he prefers to take it. But look, he then doesn't go all the way to the left, so he's narrowing his entry, going through the right-hander, and he'll lose a bucket of time as a result. And there you can see, off down the road goes Dylan, and actually putting some serious pressure on Enzo Sabaton. This is a battle between Ventauri and RSC.
Yeah, for third place overall, and some very critical points. And the slide, he saw an angle to the inside, contact between Hoagland and Matteo, and this is going to open the door up now for Astala to have a chance. Tex on the back, Ryder Dahl's there, and so too Otso Zito trying to be best of the backups, then to try and work on through. No chances into club corner then as they start lap 8 of this race, but you are really getting the sense here that drivers do not like sitting in trains and drafting about with everyone. They want to make moves.
Yeah, there's a bit of impatience starting to grow on the drivers now, ETA, especially with Matteo. I'd expect Astala is going to seize an opportunity, but he's always so good straight out of Stowe. But then when he comes down the hanger straight, he's just not able to get any kind of inroads, because this is not a really good choice of corners to be racing side by side on, through Beckett's, through Maggots. But you can see, again, he's narrowing his entry at the moment as well.
Hoagland made the mistake, ran wide, maybe caught a bit of the wet stuff, and you're going to have to go on the wet stuff to command it. Cop's corner, big slide as they try and work through. Matteo, he's got half a car, but Hoagland can now start deploying that battery around the outside of Woodcote and into Luffield corner. Now the karting line in the wet is often the best one to take, but it doesn't work like that here, Sunshine. And here will go another Astala, picking the pocket as he tries to go through. Now it's about drive off the exit as they go tyre to tyre here on this scrap. And look at them, into the side pod goes Astala, trying to find that way through. Hoagland has none of it, holds on for the moment, fends off the line on the inside, but Astala still trying to throw it down the inside. This is great stuff.
And Tex getting in there as well, and he'd be happy to swallow up any positions that he lost as well. Couple of bites of the cherry, taking the car through that left-hander. Astala not able to get any moves done on Dylan Hoagland, but Hoagland himself so disappointed with himself to now be down in P5, and that's what happened. You lose tenths of a second, and you lose so many positions when you've got a race of this quality, of this calibre. You've got to make sure you don't make even the smallest of mistakes, otherwise you pay the price.
you do pay that price, and it is a very hefty toll if you go and get it wrong. SCI just in on the back of Otto Zito. We've already noted the contact they had earlier on in this race. W Monza on the back of this as well. So I now say that you have got an 8-car scrap for third, James.
Yes, I think that's about it, really, because the thing is that Silo and even Eskrig are in their own little no man's land at the moment with 5 seconds separating themselves from everyone else. But then when you've got Enzo Sabaton leading this really long train that goes all the way down to P11, it just suggests here that, as I said, every 100th of a second, every 10th of a second that you lose on this circuit, you pay the price as a result. Matteo up to P4, he'll try to close down Enzo Sabaton, but he's been, despite the mistake at the start of this race, actually very consistent as the RSC man, and they'll be happy to take a podium, especially being a midfield team as well. Bear that one in mind.
Yeah, and this is where you start trying to change the narrative. I'm a midfield team. I'm a back market team. I'm a front runner team. Everyone wants to be a front runner team, so go out there and prove it. As Justin gets the move done on Otto Zito coming out of Brooklands on the Wellington Straight. So that one gets another one. Enzo Sabaton's run deep, and the move made by Armateo. He's got himself through and up to third, and critically, Hergeland now is going to get immediately on the power. Jarno Trulli in his prime. Eskrig now the fastest lap of the race, but Hergeland is really trying to open up this run through Abbey to get this runner. Stahler is going to be coming along at a rate of knots and will run out of track to make the pass here.
He could go for the dive going through into the Vale chicane if he wanted to. Here could the Williams outfit of a Stahler, but he's electing just to hold off back station here. And that is Matteo's experience at its absolute best right there. He might not quite have the pace that he once had, but the pure experience, the patience of that man. He's now the leading runner of this train. He could, if he wanted to, start dictating the pace a little bit. And by the looks of things, he already is, as the Stahler is keeping Dylan Hoagland under a lot of pressure as they go through into Beckett's.
Yep, so they now hold themselves in line, and we note that TF10 Ryan, who's driving an all-elite racing team, has picked up a penalty. Can I note that both the drivers with TF10 as a tag name, who are not driving for TF10, have penalty?
Well, I think TF10 will be smiling from ear to ear. Then I hear that one, that they were a bit worried that they saw TF10 at the top of the screen with the penalty. They are completely clean, though, are the TF10 team represented in the Williams, remember. Tiago down in P16 and 2.5 seconds back. He has his own little train from P16 down to P18 at the moment. But this is where the big battles are happening at the moment. Down at the back of this train here, the other RSC man of Monza, big tank slapper, well held.
Took 3 bites there to get through a counter steer to make the corner, and that's what you're fighting with. That's easily 3 seconds of a corner cut. Too eager there into the next corner, and 3 seconds at the moment is a couple of places. You don't want to be giving those up too easily, and that's what happens. You find yourself catching a mistake, rhythm breaks, you then make the mistake.
I say I feel sorry for Monza in that one, because in any other race we wouldn't have been on board with him when he completely obliterated that corner. But a well-deserved 3-second penalty for sure on that one. Here's Justin, by the way. We've been keeping tabs on him. Of course, he's the man who's gained the most amount of positions in this race as well. 5 positions gained overall. He's trying to get as close as he can to the back of this first of the ET8 drivers, Ryder who has had a pretty poor race so far, losing that 1 position. Not as poor as the person right in front of him, though. Tech Brutal SCI will be so disappointed with the man who started P3 to now be down as far as P7 in this race, and he's not really making any inroads. If anything, he's risking being potentially as low as 1 second behind a Stahler.
And that's going to be big, not from a DRS perspective, but more rather the perspective of you're going to lose the draft of the car in front, and that's an extra 1/10.5 on the straight. So that's going to be really telling if that gap opens up over a second. The Stahler, though, is a bit bottled up here with Dylan Hergeland, with Enzo Sabaton, and this is why these cars have wing and why we talk about it, that dirty air effect that comes into play. It's a lot tougher to actually get yourself through the air to make that pass.
And just goes to show as well how much Enzo Sabaton was holding people back. Matteo is now 1.8 seconds in front of Enzo Sabaton at the moment and holding Dylan Hoagland back. And you can sense now, as a result of that, it shows the frustration. The absolute intensity of this race is going to start to peak here, because with Matteo already pulling that much large of a gap, people behind are going to be thinking, where is all my race time? It's all because of this stubborn Mercedes that is basically a moving chicane at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the stubbornness. Fastest lap, 42.7 from Mateo. Silo, by comparison, is already through Stowe. They're still back at the Vale chicane in 4th position. That's the difference maker. In comes Thiago, first taker in the lane.
Oh, right, okay, so this is where we start to see people electing to get off of these intermediate tyres to have that extra grip. Now, of course, remember, very damp on circuit, so it's very much still an intermediate race here, but all of those drivers out on the circuit now are going to be considering their strategies in this race. Move to a set of intermediates that's going to be a lot fresher, a lot more suited to the conditions, or stick with an old set of intermediate tyres, knowing that, of course, you might need to get to the end of this race. Now, when it comes to the racing conditions, this circuit again not really detrimental towards tyre degradation if you manage to look after your tyres. Have they been looking after the tyres though? Not really, because they've been skating across this circuit.
They absolutely have. They've been sliding about like nobody's business. I think Bambi would be about the 8th best slider in this one as they've gone. But as it stands, Enzo Sabaton pulling his best Jarno Trulli impression out at the moment. The way he's been holding everyone behind. But Hergeland, the one who now finds himself hard pressed with a Stala trying to close this one in. So you are going to be seeing so much of a move. Hergeland from a mile back. Then dives down the inside and gets the clearance of the move as well. Wonderfully done. A peach of a pass, and now it's a Stala's turn.
Yeah, crisp, clean perfection from these drivers out here at the moment. And Dylan Hoagland showing what Venturi have got under their belt at the moment. I'm telling you, looking at these drivers, how they're sliding around the circuit, you're not going to get better sliders than this than at a burger bar, my friends. Astala is just trying to get himself around Vale without any issue whatsoever as he tries to chase down Enzo Sabaton. Dylan Hoagland, however, is going to want to start pumping in some seriously quick laps, just like what Mateo is doing. Look at the gap between him and Dylan now. It's over 3 seconds.
Oh, it's huge. So that's giving you a big sense of where the pace is, how you're going to try and gather it back, and you just got to drive. When you've got clean air, it's almost like you've taken the shackles off and you've got freedom to go and jump away. On board with Otsozito here in 10th position right now, looking at SCI Justin in front, who hasn't been able to walk that far away from the AMR Esports driver. This is where you're really sensing that, okay, if I really wanted to make a big statement and I'm in this group, I'd like to pit around now. I'd like to get on another fresh set of tyres and try and undercut 3, 4, 5 drivers in this train.
Not a bad idea, actually. If you're someone like Otsozito, pitting now would actually be a decent idea. You've got someone behind you with the penalty, so that's not going to be of major concern. And the Ferrari man as well will, of course, be able to get the jump on, and he'll be on significantly faster tyres, so he will be able to get the jump. The question, though, is if he does get into a racing scenario, will he have the sheer grip to be able to put the pressure on, I wonder? Monza looking to put the pressure on Otsozito, not looking for it, though, on this particular occasion. Will any of them pit? Will any of them elect to try something different? I wonder. Mateo setting the fastest lap of this race once again. Astala is in. That doesn't surprise me.
Oh, so Astala, who had been the one the most bottled up of anyone in this group with, I would say, pace to burn for days, will now look to try and burn the candle at both ends with lightning fast pace. So that will promote a number of drivers up the order. Enzo Sabaton and Tex Brutal happy with where they are at the moment. But look at that, a move over to the left-hand side. I wonder whether that's just to get some cooling on the tyre.
Yeah, the dry line is starting to become rather prominent on the circuit. We're not saying that it's anywhere near dry tyres, of course it's not. The rain is still falling far too harshly at a circuit which, of course, has got high humidity as well. So it takes a while for the temperatures to really cool down on the circuit, or rather the rain actually evaporate on the circuit. But people are starting to feel that these tyres are starting to overheat a little bit. But this is where you'd be begging Pirelli to produce a mid-range tyre between the intermediate and the dry, called a damp or something. That is for certain. Oh, look at that one there, Ryderdal washing out very wide indeed at Luffield.
Yeah, you'll be praying for something called an all-terrain tyre at this point rather than an intermediate. It's that sort of condition. And again, all the way over to the right-hand side, trying to find a bucket of spray and water to just put on the tyre because he's got 4 tyres on fire at the moment. Silo again, 41.9. Fastest lap of this race. They are running times that are 4 seconds quicker than what they were doing at the start of the race here on lap 15.
Matteo is absolutely flying out there at the moment, as is Dylan Hoagland as well. Their pace now unleashed after getting past the RSC man of Enzo Sabaton. Justin is now in, no surprises. FRT also trying something a little bit different. Kevin Zunberg now up to P12 as a result of that one. Astala, though, where is he in comparison then? So remember, the gap was fairly marginal between him and Justin. I think it was something in the region of around about 2 and a bit seconds. We'll see how much of this is going to be beneficial being on that fresher intermediate tyre, losing the rear ever so slightly. There goes the man, gets the move on Justin, you suspect right now. There it is. He chucks the car through this left-hander. Where is he going to be in the likes of him in comparison to Justin? He's now just leaving the pit lane, is the Haas man, but you can see off the power and straight down Astala. There is Justin. The gap was around about 2 and a bit seconds. We'll see what the gap is going to be. It's around about 3. He's gaining about a second a lap.
That's big, and if you're finding that time, I would say, Enzo, you're in trouble. I'd say Dylan Hoagland, you're going to have to look out as well about where the clearance is going to be and how late you decide to dive down in. Now, here's another interesting scenario that's to bring into mind. I don't think the tyre wear is going to be enough for all of them. If you are in a position, James, where you're in a wet weather race, there is no obligation to come in and pit for a change of tyres.
No, absolutely not. And you can see them dive into the right-hand side, trying to break the toe and also cool down the tyres. But these drivers have also got to take into account the amount of dirty air. The amount of dirty air these drivers are considering here. As Zito has left the session. That's disappointing. So that was a really good opportunity for the likes of AMR to be really in there. But now, Zito out of the mix and he'll lose down all those positions. Either way, keep an eye on that one. Those intermediate tyres can go the distance if they've looked after them. But if you have been stuck in a train for as long as you have been burning your tyres. And I would beg to differ here that those tyres actually are going to be a lot more worn than what they should be.
Yes, because you're getting more scrubbing from the dirty air that's there in front. So you're putting more lateral load into the tyres because you're understeering more. Astala, 140.8. If that's not a telling statement of how quick I can go, I don't know what is. And so he'll be looking at the cars in front. And this is where I think you're looking around at Spiga, you're looking at Callum. That's about 10 seconds to chase those drivers down. I don't think they'll catch them in the next 5 laps, but certainly in the next 10, that would be the ideal for what they're looking for. So this is where the leaders up at the front will be going, yeah, if we can keep the tyres in the window that we can keep them, it's great. Otherwise, it's horrible.
Remember, though, the gap was around about a second a lap is the difference, the delta between the old and the new intermediate. But those old intermediates are getting older very quickly indeed. So even though that the new tyres will be getting older, I don't suspect, actually, that that delta is going to be decreasing. If anything, I think it'll be increasing. And that will mean that they being on the new Inter will actually get even faster. So keep that one in mind as you just keep an eye on Astala's gap. Gap is 9.3. It was 9.9 at the start of this lap for him. So he's gaining really, really quickly at the moment out there, but it's one thing gaining all of that time, it's another overtaking.
Yeah, Fedemori with a good defence there against Fana Spinoda, who's up 6 as it stands. Tech now eyeing up a pass on Enzo Sabaton, but not really getting anywhere near close enough to go and make that happen. Ryderdal is sat there behind, effectively marking Tech at this moment, trying to do what's needed. And I will keep an eye on our Matteo 46, because that 5-second gap that we saw earlier on, that's now down to 2.
Yeah, he's gaining at a rapid rate of knots at the moment, and Matteo is known for being a driver who is seriously able to manage that sort of blend of conditions, and that is just the sheer experience. But Justin, on those fresh intermediate tyres, is flying. Gap is now 1.4 to Astala. He's gaining at a rapid rate of knots, but can he get the overtake done? That is the question, as, thank the Lord, Zito has rejoined the session, but his car well down the field now in P13.
Yeah, it's cost at least 5 positions and about 7 seconds there, that drop. So huge for Zito, and there's nothing you can do. It's very much like saying, okay, you got an engine problem, you're going to have to slow it down a bit. So he will have to try and work hard to gain back that time and pray for mistakes at the moment. We look around and see here, right down at the back with Thiago up against it here with JTO 40 here. This a scrap for 2 and 1 points, and with Ryan behind as well with penalty, you can't afford too much because the wooden spoon gives you no points. So these are points which at the end of the season, you want 1 point, you want 2 points. They'll tell.
Yeah, they will. In the championship of this quality, every point will count. And there you can see Thiago effectively pushing JTO 40 around here, as Ryan is there pushing Thiago around this here. The three of them are just basically all towing each other around this circuit at the moment, but they can't get that overtake done. Now, can Thiago get anywhere near potentially an overtake here on JTO 40? Is he going to look for it down the outside? Is he going to look for it down the inside? I wonder. No, on this occasion he will not, but JTO 40 gets a wiggle going through the corner. He goes off of the track. Here comes that Williams. Then he's going to have to go around the outside. And then the kick. Sauber also trying to get in the mix as well. This is for the scraps of points, by the way, folks, as he gets that move down the inside line. And the Williams has got that move done. And it looks like the Aston Martin going from 18th to 19th and now to 20th.
Around the outside of the final corner of Abbey. Brilliant stuff out there. You've got Otto Zito now in a scrap. This is with a Stala who is looking around. In fact, in front of Spiga where the battle is, and so they're working hard. And I want to go up to second because I'm looking at Ivan Eskrig. That gap down to half a second right now. And here comes the run from Otto Zito. He can't get it done on the Angry Shark, who is in home territory, I would say, in these very wet conditions. But Matteo here, I want to go to second. That's the big battle on screen as here comes the lunge to the inside. Thank you muchly.
Oh. Yeah, cracking this, isn't it, as well? I don't know if I'm starting to disconnect myself here, actually, from this one, but cracking situation occurring at the moment down at the front of the field. I'm keeping a very firm eye on that battle. I'm also keeping a firm eye as well on this man, Ryderdal, looking also very sharp.
Yeah, Ryderdal just fending W Monza off, so that's enough to just stave off the challenge as it goes. Ivan Eskrig here in second. I think the way they're posturing, they're all posturing right now, I think we're staring down the barrel of a no-stop.
Yeah, potentially as well. The no-stop is a possible one, but we have seen at this particular circuit that the tyres tend to go only around about 24 laps before they fall off a cliff. Now, that's in dry conditions. The intermediates and the wets do tend to have a little bit more life in them, so they could potentially go the distance, but it's all about whether those people are actually going to be able to manage the degradation on those tyres, because, of course, those now who have pitted, of course, have got an extremely quick tyre beneath them, and they can push all the way to the end, while the rest of them they cannot.
Do you remember when Formula One teams decided they wanted to run the tyres backwards, mount them backwards for more speed, and they all got tyre blowouts? They'll be in that sort of range in the final 5 laps of the race.
Yeah, it does feel like it's a bit like the situation, isn't it, way back when they were filtering them backwards. But the fact is Matteo at the moment is definitely not going backwards. He's going so far forwards at the moment as he's trying to close down on Ivan Eskrig. Remember, this is a man who was just holding P2. He was holding the 4 absolutely fine. And now this is the first little bit of pressure that he's going to be feeling in this race, whereas Matteo has had pressure all the way around him. So in terms of sheer experience in this race alone, Matteo is certainly in on it, and that's a mistake.
Yeah, he was really diving deep there through the corner. It will open back up again for Ivan Eskrig, but the difference in pace, I think, is tantamount here. What Roberto Matteo is doing here. Ivan Eskrig has got himself pace, but I think he's churned the tyres up, building a gap early, and I don't think he's got much to fight back with. I don't know what you think about it, James.
Yeah, that's going to be critical, isn't it? Because, of course, they've got to try and manage the situation. Remember, Matteo, as well, has also burnt through more of his tyres in that little sort of scrap in the train as well. So even Eskrig has got more to give, but Matteo has got a lot more to want to gain. So answers on a postcard, folks. I'd love to know who you think your favourite is for that one. All I do know is Silo is certainly, without a mistake or a puncture, is well on his way to potentially a very classy victory, nearly 10 seconds in front of the Ferrari man in P2.
Yeah, and with Tech Brutal in 6th, it is going to be Shizu Cedars Igniters who will take momentum coming out then of the opening round of the championship, despite the 10 points they took away for the late submission. So they're in a wonderful place at the moment. Mateo trying to defend the two-time reigning champions in ET8 or ET8, as sometimes they will have to be called. SCI Justin with 3 seconds. Now that's big.
That is fairly big as well, because remember, he's a man who's actually on a mission. The gap was 9 seconds to Astala. He ended up finding all that time, and then he lost it. And now he's down to 2 seconds in this one with that 3-second penalty. That might just set the precedent now. The pitting was a bad idea.
I don't think pitting was the way you were going to get it done today. You needed a lot more drop-off from the drivers to the tune of 2 to 3 seconds. They didn't get that, and that's why you're seeing them so far down. You had to try something, but today, no stop looks like the best call out there of everyone. Ivan Eskrig has really stepped up the pace over the last lap. He's brought the gap down under 9 seconds now to Silo, and he is doing so because he's got to keep Mateo at bay.
He has to keep him at bay here, and the best way to do that one actually is play the more defensive game. But the best form of defence for him will be, of course, attack. But where do you attack? Because the rain still falling considerably. That dry line allowing people on the intermediates to feel comfortable on them. But of course, they need to use all of the circuit. But all of the circuit is only really for cooling the tyres down. For racing, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. 5 to go. It's a little bit of a sprint to the end, but we'll put your wellies on.
Well, now Otso Zito under pressure, so too is TF10 Callum representing Tatum Rest Tech, trying to get anything for that team. Remember, there's 3 seconds of penalty there, so both of these drivers will jump through. Justin won't, though, because he's got 3 of his own, but look at the difference between old tyres and new. He can just pin it on the power. He'll have a line on Otso Zito now, heading to Cop's corner. Will now lean on that right rear, that left rear tyre.
Oh.
That could have been disastrous. What a save.
Yeah, great save that between the pair of them. Very respectful racing as well between the two teams as well, the two Spanish teams, AMR and TF10 teams. So we'll have to keep a very firm eye on that one. Remember, they are still battling for position here, of course, because points all the way down to P19, folks. So that every little race, every little situation is potentially massive when you've got a championship this close.
Look at the defence there. You can see the rain light flashing to indicate that there is going to be a lot of water out there, and another big lunge. We see it here all the time at this 4th to last corner of the outer loop, round the outside, then into the village, and saying thank you very much on that one. Now I'll try and line up from the fake TF10 to the real TF10 to get that move. Run slightly balked out of Abbey, but again, you're now in the wheelhouse to try and make this move with just 5 laps to go.
Oh, wow. This is going to get intense, folks. We should be in as we start to see people now begin that train formation again. Just work with each other, and then it'll be last-ditched dives. I think that's what Mateo is potentially going to be looking for as he goes through Cops, losing the rear ever so slightly. Very well held. He'll have a nice toe, though, off the back of the Ferrari to lose any time that he lost from that little bit of oversteer. He may go for the late breaker to try and match him, but look at that. He went for the late breaker, but Mateo has got the grip. He will continue that battle as he now tucks in just behind the Ferrari, rear losing ever so slightly in the dirty air, and that allows the Ferrari to step away. But Mateo is braking later, and yet he's still hitting the apexes better than Even. I'm wondering if even Eskrig has actually been unnecessarily burning through his tyres, I wonder.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, and that's why that gap has really fallen away. The different driving styles there. JTO40 at the back gets 3 seconds of penalty, goes even further, but this is the level you need to go in order to defend. Mateo is the quickest driver out there on pure pace at the moment, but pure pace isn't going to win you this race. It might not even get you second if you can't find a way by him, and the fact there's been no DRS all race, I think, has really been the telling point. You've got to make the pass on your own vices, and this is where you're finding out that doing a reverse layout, opportunities are scanter to pass.
Yeah, you know what? Matteo is finding every opportunity to get into a space to put Ivan Eskrig under pressure, and it's forcing Ivan to put himself onto a place of the circuit that perhaps he doesn't want to. I think he's actually feeling the pressure on top of the fact he's burnt through his tyres more aggressively, and this is the sheer experience that is Matteo at the moment, and ETA very happy to have him in the roster when he's able to play the mind games on the circuit. That's half of the racing, of course, in F1, as he now heads his way down towards Luffield with that toe. He might use a little bit of overtake, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's going to continue the pressure. He might not look for the overtake, but if it goes for the late breaker and he sees that gap open up, he'll put his car there and put the Ferrari under pressure.
And just gets the curb on the inside of Luffield corner that causes a little bit of wheel spin that allows even Eskrig to plant the car down on the exit and make that move. Justin and Callum change their places further back down in the field, but with these final few laps now starting to tick and make their toll known, I don't think Matteo has quite got a run. Now, remember last year, though, it was him and Sergio Olli who were making the huge runs that got them to the title. It's here today, though. Matteo's had to bear the brunt on his shoulders, but he got bottled up. And so that is 12 points. He'd want back Dylan Hoagland with the extra bonus points sat back there in fourth.
He's got a 5-second gap as well between him and Matteo, so all that clean air is meaning that he can now just power his way around the circuit, get those fastest laps, and take that extra point that he knows he's going to be able to try and at least get. The problem is he's got people behind him who have pitted earlier on in this race who are going to be fighting for that final point as well.
Yeah, so that final points paying position, I think, is going to be huge. Those who pitted really losing out from a position of 5th, 6th, racing for it to be down in 13th. That's what we call a huge loss in terms of where you need to be. But now, I sit down, Matteo's been behind so long, I think he's starting to struggle himself.
Yeah, potentially getting a little bit of understeer actually going through Stowe, so keep an eye out, through Cops rather, sorry, so keep an eye on that one. JTO 40 speeding in the pit lane, 10-second penalty. I hope that one is just because he had a puncture of some kind and he's not planning on retiring from this race, but it looks like to me he is in the box. It doesn't look like any kind of puncture on the car though, so it doesn't look like punctures are something to be considered at the moment, but it'll be nil point for him. Oh, have we got a little bit of a switch up? We do. Tech is battling at the moment by the looks of things with the likes of Monza. And actually, this is very well crafted from RSC at the moment, with them in 5th and 6th place, respectively. Monza could get the move done on Enzo, and then Enzo will hold everyone back while Monza tries to race ahead with that time penalty. And it looks like that switch is going to occur. Oh, it's not very well timed from RSC, though.
Yeah, and they're running out of time to do this. They'll be down on 2 laps to go here at Silverstone Reverse. So if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it in such a way where you're not going to allow Tech back through him, because they can't get this sorted. It's trouble. Track Racer now with 3 is going to have to drop back a little bit. So that'll be an easy one for Astala to move up then to 12th, who now sets the fast lap for the race, beaten by Justin, who will give a point over then to the team of the Future Racing team. So that's going to be another huge boon in the back pocket. But W Monza, I think he's just got to play rear gunner now. I think he's run out of time on this strategy.
I'm very surprised that RSC have not fielded this one here, and I think that's the reason why, because look how close Tech Brutal has been. He's going to go side by side through Maggots and Beckett's and Maggots, but on this situation, Tech can't get the move done. If I was RSC at this point, I would have swapped Monza a lot earlier in this race, but of course Monza didn't really get close enough, and I think at this point in time, too much of a risk with how quick Tech is looking. They are switching the drivers. Tech's looking for it. Oh my God, he's made a mistake though. Ryderdal has got in there, but a great switch back from the SCI man. They'll go side by side going towards Luffield, but it looks like here the ETA man has lost out around the outside. Then they'll have to go round Luffield, but on this situation, the Mercedes is going to hold station. He's got 1 lap to try and hold everyone back by 3 seconds. This is a tough ask from Enzo Sabaton.
Wow, Enzo there saw a phaser bullet come through in ET8 Ryderdal, who couldn't quite get it done. Tech holding himself steady as the last lap starts by saying, oh, there's a bit of contact in there. Ryderdal chucks it in. Now goes side by side with Tech Brutal, trying to get it sorted. They will now fight amongst each other, and the gap between them already out to 1.5 seconds. Just 1.5 seconds more between you, lads, is all you need to get. So now look at where they go. The inmates fighting amongst each other all the way to the inside. Tries Tech going into Club. Oh my! Losing the back end slightly then on the outside. Somehow they hold it together, shoving out the run there. And I think 3 seconds has now been found because Fana Spinoda is now moving up now and trying to get involved in this on the final lap. Brilliant stuff. There's still the race on for second position overall that heads its way to Cop's Corner as that all continues on. Ivan Eskrig in the final stages of this race. He has done a brilliant job of holding this back. Fana Spinoda now through on Tech Brutal. That will move that chase. Tier 10 Ryan picks up 3 for the troubles as well. But now we head towards that final sector and we can only go to the Shazoo Cedars Igniters car that leads this one, the Alpine of SCI Silo, who will look around and see that nobody got even close to him in the stormy Silverstone conditions. He comes out of farm, he will just have Village and Abbey to go, and in the cyclone, it is Silo who will take the win in a dominant fashion. Fastest lap to boot as well, coming over the line. Ivan Eskrig will take second, and Armateo in third for the reigning champs ET8, as now everyone fights it for the line. W Monza has not got the gap because they are having to defend like anything behind. 2.6 it is as they head through. Enzo Sabaton just about staving it. Oh, it's close. I think he's just got it. He's done that.
He's done it.
What a masterful strategy, James.
75 thousandths of a second. That was the difference in the end. Enzo nailed that. Absolutely fantastic from the RSC team to get 5th and 6th. What a great points haul from them. Ryder will be disappointed with P7. That's for certain for ET8 as well. But Silo, it never looked in doubt, did it? From that pole position, it looked so clean, so cool, so nice and easy from the likes of Silo. Ivan Eskrig, though, I think he's got to be up there as potentially a driver of the day for me because that was a valiant defensive effort from a very, very quick ET8 Matteo.
Yeah, that was wonderfully done. And although the day says you haven't gained any, I also look at Fana Spinoda. We hardly saw him all day. +8 over the course of today. What a drive by Fana Spinoda. Ryan stole the fastest lap point.
Yeah, because they were pitted right towards the end. That doesn't surprise me. JTO40 did exactly the same thing as well, going for the fastest lap. I wonder if he's going to get it, as he comes across the line right now. Will he get it? No, he won't, but he'll get a 10-second penalty unserved in this one as well. That is Ventauri in a nutshell. They are able to get up there. They're able to show their pace here, Jake. But at the end of the day, you can't show your pace flat out if you don't qualify well. And I think they've got a lot to learn from this one going into round 2 next week.
I think they do as well. Podium celebration time. Absolutely. Walk like an Egyptian. Why not? And get that sorted. A wonderful bit of racing. Silo absolutely on top and proving that it is his game at the moment that everyone else has to try and work themselves around with out there today. So confirmation of the result then by 7.6 over Ivan Eskrig. Armateo there in third and Dylan Hogeland fourth ahead of Enzo Sabaton and W Monza. ET8 Ryderdal will be in in 7th with Fana Spinoda 8th, Tech Brutal 9th, and Fedamori running out the top 10 ahead of Astala with the pit stop. There's then Kevin Zunerberg and Track Racer, SCI Justin and Otto Zito with TF10 Callum, ASRT Spiga, and then you got Tiago, Ryan 1, and JTO40 there representing Tatum Restec, taking the 0 points at the end of running. But wow, what a race. We got a lot to talk about with that because the race pretty much set itself up at the front in the opening 2 laps of the race, and that was purely on the pace that Silo had and Enzo Sabaton didn't.
-10 didn't show any negativity at all for SCI at the end of the day, did it? So they've really showed their outright pace of the SCI team as well. But you mentioned about the likes of RSC as well. I'm absolutely astounded. That is some of the best little bit of race management that I have seen over one course of a lap to try and not just take, RSC a 5th and a 6th place finish, but also in your own personal effort, stay above your teammate. 75 thousandths of a second, and then less than, I think it was half a tenth, separating you from the team behind. That is some of the most astonishing, accurate driving I've ever seen. Fantastic.
It's so clever, and it will get them a lot of points when it comes to the team's championship. And let's talk about where we're going next week, because we go from this Silverstone reverse track, as we bring up the calendar, to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. I like to call this one, James, the dyno test, because this is where they test the car. This is what it's got. It's got every single facet of making a circuit difficult to race at, with those long parabolic style corners. It's a tire wrecker.
It is an absolute tyre wrecker, but a combination of all of the slow, medium and fast speed corners that allow for someone who is more known for a bit more of a neutral sentiment when it comes to driving. Doesn't drive too aggressively, but not too relaxed either. So those drivers that like to keep it more relaxed and enjoy themselves will definitely experience a lot more enjoyment from the race next week at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya.
Yeah, and you can only catch it here with us on Velocity Esports Racing. Do yourself the YouTube favor, like, share, and subscribe, because this Velocity Ultimate Masters is brought to you in collaboration with Hyundai, with Intercomp, with Monster Energy, with Brand Garage, with Level Academy, and with, of course, The Specialist. From James Otter and myself, Jake Sperry, the day belongs to Shazoo Cedars Igniters. They have done a fantastic job of saying, look, we are going to be making a challenge. Forget 10 points here for submitting late. We're going to still have the pace and the power to go and challenge for this title. But there are teams aplenty that are making themselves known. AMR have come to the party. The reigning champions are quiet in ET8, but by no means out of the picture. And do not count RSC out of the picture. That was a masterstroke heading over the line, making sure that the penalty would be served and no places would be lost. And so now you say it's next up. Who is going to stand head and shoulders? Because we've got three very great Spanish teams and one Spanish track coming up. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya is next in 7 days, and we will see you in Montemelo, Spain.